they were burning very quickly.
They've put them out.
So
Yeah. I have another query as well as we go through this.
Yeah.
How are any of us going to separate Jess from that machete? I worry for our safety. I worry for the safety of everybody.
She's also squeezing a dead rat
around.
right now,
I honestly think that we're in danger.
There are some signs.
Luckily, I mean, you're already an undead.
Yeah, I'm fine.
I'm killable only by silver, so I think
that machete is a plastic, so...
then I'm fine.
I think
then I'm fine. Okay, Cowana Virtus.Pro on bank. Two teams that are still fighting for their way into the top. Into the chances of that. As we can sort of see, although Virtus.Pro have what is a good chunk, a good sort of sandwich of wins there, and Cowana has been back and forth, a couple of Covana's games have been ones that they really should have won. They really should have been able to lock out, whether it's just this sort of end of the swing and they can't quite get the momentum or the confidence. I know that there was obviously a breakdown at the beginning from Wednesday of the mistakes that they were making on Villa.
Yeah.
I know Des, the Mad Hatter that he is, went over some of their clips recently on his stream as well and was talking about how many of their own drones they killed on the chance on their final potential attack to lock it out and take a win. They killed 4 of their own drones in the space of about 15 seconds.
Yeah, it's never helpful when that
happens. No, it's the opposite, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Information is quite key. Look at that. Shoulder ribs are quite key as well. Milan here quickly still receiving that last bit of energy. That's
what you want.
It's the advantage of being in a boot camp, you know, or in a gaming house with the rest of your team, your support staff, and everything that comes with it. And as the Gorgona goes onto that Finca quickly. It is like normally in Operator we would be, you know, if we see, we're like, oh, that could be a rush to come through, but it became more of meta now, actually, in many of teams. Their compositions, 2 grenades, a gun 6, and of course the adrenaline surge you can use to heal every single one of your team members back up to near full health. It has definitely been an Operator that recently saw a lot more pickage.
I love that what we've seen is, in general, more of a stretch of bank. There was always a bit of a concern that you wouldn't see too much of it. Always, you know, I guess those conversations become a little bit tweaked because of the fact that it existed in a form before it made its way here, where it did have a fairly decent amount of play, but it sort of got a bit stale, so it was removed from the rotation. Here it's kind of back to the boards, and there's a couple of tweaks, and I still think the most affected site is only really the basement site, the vault with the chain to the hatch. I think that's the only one that we've seen sort of true adaptation from the site redesign itself, because the rest, the way that teams are holding it now, this wider hold, is just the meta, and we're just seeing a different meta without the sort of transition period that warms you into it.
Of course, the top floor has changed a little bit as well. There's not as many windows anymore you can try and challenge that top floor from, just this singular one that Grizzly's on, or of course right above that main entrance, which suddenly cuts down a... Okay. You know, you can just toss those in, I guess, as Selmas, but if it is other electrification... I'm sorry, I was a bit startled about the decision made there by Grizzly. We talked about how killing your own drones is not very helpful. Throwing your own Selmas into electrification. Also
not very helpful.
Not really helpful indeed, no.
No, it doesn't add to the aid of things. Ben just going to slow creep his way as Gorgona, and Gorgona double up, gets the opener, gets dropped by Milan. Swung from stock, but a grenade finally finds Karjeka. You assume that potentially got the Cade Claw as well onto Kanto, so they're trying to burn their way. No. Burned by the ADS. There's the catch around the back, but there's the take. Pasha finds one and almost finds the second of his own. Dropped on the way up the stairs. Sloth puts them into a 3 versus 1. A fantastic early take here as Milan gets dropped next. Sloth and Gorgona take the prize, and a sudden strike right down the heart of that white corridor. They just did not expect it, Virtus.Pro.
Virtus.Pro definitely did not expect that. I'm also quite confused as to how exactly he managed to get into the position he managed to find himself in to just go ham with the LMG and pick up those 2 entry kills. Either way, it is Cowana that, even though with a bit of a rough start to the round with, you know, using some of your, or misusing some of that utility, bring it back on the back of those gunfights. So Cowana, round 1, goes their way. VP, they decide to continue to go for that top floor. Executive and CEO will be up again. Let's see if there's going to be any different kind of take. Maybe they have learned and managed to find out where Gorgona exactly came from, and are going to be putting a little bit more emphasis down that side now.
A false start for Virtus.Pro. I think it was a start where, as I said, they were taken a bit by surprise how Gorgona got to where he did, whether he just dropped onto White's sort of skylight on the stairs and fought his way across. He found a double in very quick succession and then got dropped pushing past the vending machine by Milan, who was obviously playing a little bit surprised on the other side of that. You assume that that's a wake-up call that Virtus.Pro sometimes have in a game. It was a conversation that we had in the recent showdown where they weren't allowed to get in their pace on Cafe by Empire, who sort of kept this control. And it took a while for them to find themselves, is that the game that Cowana want to play here is, let's not get VP, get happy.
Wondering what Milan is trying to do. Is he trying to hunt a drone, or is he trying to dig himself into a corner here? I think, yeah, that's exactly it. He's trying to hide in here just to make sure that if someone goes through and tries to open that one up, you could just easily shoot out those Selmas without anybody having a clue where it's coming from. So interesting choice there. Also really like the shield Pasha is playing all the way over, looking towards the square, protecting Janitor, but also having the Hulse to protect stock if a eventual push is coming down that way. Also, please note, he's on indestructible flooring. Grenades from Benja won't really have that much of an impact, so he needs to angle them well through a hatch maybe even if he wants to get that shield.
Also, please note, expect that position in your ranked game.
Yes.
From this point onwards. You've got to drone that. You've got to make sure that that is now watched as they ping themselves towards Kanto. They're going to try and find their way through this time with probably a little bit more, I'm going to say, protection towards the player. Obviously, the ace was dropped just from a wide swing across Banana on the top of the lobby. 2 claws, both buried down. They're not going to mess around or play the game here. They're just going to sort of stick it, leave it, and wait, because it isn't the most comfortable to try and reposition. Sure, you could put WTG in a place to play against it, but with both claws gone, the wall pops open. Hey, where's Milan? There he is. Finds one, finds 2. The pings come through, but still, yet again, this strike, this swing has gone unchecked. A fantastic play here.
He's eventually going to get punished, though. Sloth picks up the kill after almost being down himself. Just back into that drone, spots out a player, tries to get that grenade over potentially soon. First to gun 6, of course, to waste the ADS, but decides to not try and follow up on it yet. Needs to make sure the player is still there. There comes the grenade, and WTG, while he lives, as the grenade exploded a little bit early. So 3 and 4 is a situation we're currently in. 55 seconds on the clock, and Cowana tried to push up heavily onto the spiral stairs here. Currently not being watched by any of the VP players. Rask, he is quite close. Same for WTG, and Grzek holding a very long angle as well. So Gorgona sneaking around the back. He might be able to make the difference here.
Well, Sloth definitely doesn't. WTG gets the lock off, but there's Gorgona creeping around, finds one, can't connect with the second. Rask and Pasha find one apiece, and the response comes from Virtus.Pro, built behind Milan, taking the surprise strike, getting right in behind them, sort of read and realized that Cowana throw themselves in pretty hard, far and fast. And if we play against that, if we play in this sort of little hidden hole, if we put ourselves in a bit of a creepy position, then we can really bring a bit of the fever, a bit of the spook that's overtaken our studio here.
There's definitely the opportunity, yeah. People are going to be on their toes now, not knowing what corner he might pop out next. And as, you know, he just did that, probably going to be droned a little bit more now on the side of Cowana. Knew they missed one, so they have to double down on it. I mean, I get it. Not often do you expect someone to be down inside of the small office, but the time you don't check it is actually the time someone manages to be there and surprise you from the back, ruining your entire round. So VP, they definitely will have to make sure that they stay on their toes themselves as well. Do not get complacent in these kind of spots. Whereas Cowana, they need to make sure they double, triple check everything.
That's it. It's a caution, it's a worry, it's a woe, and it's something you've now got to do. Though, I guess we'll see if that's something that repeats itself on the other sites. We talked a little bit at the beginning about how the meta sort of affected the holds, and this is probably one of the biggest. Once upon a time, when Bank was around, this site never really played. It was the 4th most popular. It was the 4th selected because well, it was just worrying to hold. There was so much that could happen so quickly. There was no real way to comfortably extend yourself or your hold. Everything was boxed in, cornered, and just sort of waiting for the pressure to come. Here, with the new operators we've had added since, with the sort of plays that you'll see around the catches of Wumai and the portability, around the, obviously, control of information, which is what VP has gone with here, the combination of, obviously, Mozzie and Vigil. You'll sometimes see Mute, you'll sometimes see a Rooney, you'll see the Castle. It just allows extended play, which Open at the minute works really nicely with.
Yeah, for sure, and just Siege in general, like the level of play that these teams bring haven't evolved as well, and you know, these more horizontal extended holds work out so well. We see it on so many sites nowadays, and of course Castle being an operator that is coming in quite clutch in these situations is seeing a very high intensive pick rate as well. Sloth is about to be running into the tellers, just spots one off guard there. Rask had absolutely no clue, was just checking the cameras, and Sloth, without even being droned in, decides to just take the space.
The hatch is locked above him. He's been able to find his way all the way into the admin office as Pasha at least stops Benja from behind him, isolates the player, but Sloth has crept and crawled his way into the core of the hold. That's going to put a bit of fear into the play right now of Virtus.Pro, but it's only a matter of time, and he's well aware there's multiple different angles he can get peeked from, and until a lifeline or support is offered to him, he has no rope, he has no way to parachute and pull out of this hole. Cowana is going to see if he can put some pressure onto the open window as Sloth drifts a little bit wider but pulls a little bit back, and you're sort of waiting now for just somebody from Cowana to go, okay, here's an in, and they're still trying to find it.
Pasha looking to try and creep a little bit closer. No, Sloth could still be in W2G on the other side of the wall, but there's no rotations, no lines of sight out there. So Sloth just holding off for now, looking if he can cut down any of these rotations or these angles to come through. Skrzyka trying to put up a little bit of pressure from above. Grenades are being tossed in. Sloth is about to be creeping in, or gets taken care of by Pasha. That's finally him taken care of. And now VP, they feel a little bit safer knowing that the lion amongst them has been taken care of.
That's it. It was a matter of time. And Sloth was well aware of it. Virtus.Pro were well aware of it. But the rest of Cowana, who would have also been aware of it, just couldn't find the way in. Grizzly at least gets in and underneath. Drops Pasha from the drop. Doesn't get dropped by the C4, which pops just a little bit off to the shoulder. However, 30 seconds. The site's not down here. Got to loop your way back up and see if you can find the remaining 3 fighters, especially because you assume that there's still Maestro cams and problems to solve. Milon is the next problem, crossed off by WTG, leaving just an Arkic by himself. Doesn't last very long, and Virtus.Pro find the lead.
There goes the Alva, managed to pick up one completely blind sprays down to the second as they knew he would jump down through that window. And that is VP winning their second round, taking that lead into their own hands. Now, up to the next site we go. Either it will be in Tellers and Archives, or we'll go to Lockers CCTV. We saw it being swapped halfway through their pick phase, but Lockers it will be. That bottom floor, that is the one that was most impacted. We see those 2 hatches now, which have been added, one into the vault. Of course, that was previously right behind the Tellers, now moved towards the lobby. And then one, which basically just moved elevator, but they also extended the elevator at the bottom, which gives you a little bit more safe space if you need to be dropping through there. So with those extra opportunities, suddenly we see, you know, every now and then, see a take go through from the actual back, from the vault, not so much from the elevator itself. It often gets opened up for a bit of pressure, so no one can play inside there. But normally the hatch that Rask now reinforces, that could be a secondary entry point.
There's still worries, I think, for Virtus.Pro at the minute, most notably Sloth being able to get to where he did so fast. It just sort of smelled of that first round. It smelled of danger that if Cowana are able to find an exploit and get a little bit deeper next time, or get a little bit further elsewhere and have some momentum behind them, then a round can very quickly spiral away from you, as we saw in the very first. So they'll be aware of this. They'll be aware of this sort of leaky hole in the boat that they need to try and find a way to patch, because it's only really a matter of time before you take on more water. Sloth himself, he's off to a good start, which is good for Cowana, because he's sometimes a player who hasn't quite been able to step up to the aggressive mantle, and there's not many teams more aggressive than Virtus.Pro. Ergo, Milon stood right outside the door, goes for the wide swing, finds the first and takes care of Benja.
No business getting that, swings wide, even missed him in the first go, but managed to swing around as Milon now being swung on himself. Sloth goes for the pre-fire, doesn't manage to find the second, however. Skrzyka just lives through that. Only up to about 20 HP himself, being sprayed by the MK14 from the windows. Just a single shot would have taken care of him, but not able to find him yet on the side of Gorgona. Ooh, well, they need to go to the basement, but still struggling to get control of that top floor. And you do need it, because if you just hit that basement directly, that is... Oh, a jump out to come through! Gorgona misses his shots, and it's Rask to finally pick up the kill. Jumps down into the sewers here to go back towards the side. And there's nothing Cowana can do to try and punish that.
A single shot pretty much landed there by Gorgona, and he was almost out of ammunition when the fight started. It's just this sort of comedy of problems, unfortunately, that's turning into the tragedy of errors as they try and drive themselves closer and closer to this. Grizzly and an Arctic are going to see if they can try and at least pull some of this back. They have a lot of time, but they also have a lot of Virtus.Pro members to still get through. The flashes go towards the hatches in the bottom of green as Grizzly's got himself waiting patiently to see if he can punish anyone who drifts a bit close. One slips by, doesn't see them. Pash is able to find himself into a new aggressive situation. There's at least some fire that comes through, but, well, that gives Pash's game away. WTG means that the last one is stuck inside Kajek as above.
Yeah, he was locked in there. When you're the last one left and you're the one in the vault and you've given your position away, that moment everybody's going to be watching you. You even saw the smoke canister coming out there. There was no way you would be able to get out alive there. So, Virtus.Pro, they lead 1-3.
He's that in the back of Rask's camera. He's very cozy.
I was going to say as well, he's just sitting there in his blanket, you know.
It's cozy.
Chilling, watching the games.
Relaxed.
Great.
There he goes. It's great from Virtus.Pro.
It is great.
It's energetic. It's fast. It's well put together. In the same breath, it's not good from Cowana. We know that they can play better. We know that they can connect things together. Obviously, Benja missing that kill, I think, was kind of synonymous with how this game is going for them, because Benja on pretty much any other day, gone. Milan wouldn't have been able to get the second look. A lot of players would have been able to get it. And that disconnect, you sort of look at it right now and think, okay, obviously, what's the energy like in the call? Are they going to sort of potentially look towards attack timeout? Are they going to see if they can play out this half? Is this going the way they are? Because that's not just things of Virtus.Pro playing well. That's a disconnect from Kavana's side, which we know that they can sharpen, and we know that they can push more and play more pressure onto.
It's just the aggression as well that VP bring. They out-aggress Cowana, you can almost say. And Cowana has been quite aggressive. We're just inserting Gorgona up on the top floor, Slough in the middle of the site, you know. But in these same rounds, VP, they just swing it. And they managed to get away with it. They managed to get some of the kills, and there's always someone to be ready to respond to it. And when an MK14 starts bursting through the windows from north to south, then suddenly a Vigil jumps out with a K1A and finishes off that job as well. So far, Cowana not really been given anything for free by Virtus.Pro, especially not after Gorgona was able to get those 2 kills early on, which eventually led into the one and only round they have so far. Now there is a bit better droning going on. Cowana still don't know exactly the spot that Milan was hiding in before, though, because there was no explicit check of the back of the copy machine.
Now, as the drone finds its way up, he sees that and drops it, and then pre-fires a little bit before dropping back. He's wasting time. He's in that business, and he's slowing down Cowana, or at least hoping to. Grizzly with the long arm starts to try and get all of that Canto corner popped open as the pings come through. Those are Selmas that both got caught by the jammer. So they are still present. They're just going to see if they can find a way to hurl one of Benja's grenades up there, potentially after trying to burn it with the flashes from an Arctic. However, Rask, he's dancing around Banana. He's looking for the opener. He finds it. Sloth goes down, which is a huge blow because he's the main player for connection so far for Cowana.
Yeah, not just that, also carries some of these frag grenades that are necessary to open up Canto, and, well, one just popped. Still no go, still no joy. Benja needs to continue moving. And Will, with an ADS still left standing on either side. Oh, some Jammer, correct me. Yeah, he needs to get these entries now because VP, well, they're sitting up right up on the top right quite comfortably, especially with Sloth gone and those 2 extra frags out of play.
That's it. It puts them in an awkward situation because he's off in the drive as well. The player to sort of push them further and further up. And now as Grizzly holds off this long angle, an angle he suffered on twice before, Benja catches his first kill of the game, and it's a C4 that swings towards him. Looks for his second and can't quite get it locked off, but does a huge amount of damage to WTG. But 52 seconds, they've still got to find their way up top. They've been able to cause a bit of a problem, but a wide swing shotgun doubles down, can't connect. They slip on by. Benja locks off WTG, and Kajeka gets a bit of revenge, but it's suddenly Benja inside the site. One more, as Cowana has to go and recollect the diffuser. This yet again leaves the player isolated. Rask goes down. Benja has suddenly started to find a bit of a connection here, but now they've got still 2 players left to find through. 20 seconds. They've got to get back in those windows and try and swing that in.
Palin and Gorgona is going to be so important here. He needs to get in safely. If he does so, at least the diffuser is on the top floor. But Milan is quite around the corner. Is going to be able to drop that, and it's going to be Pasha who picks up the second kill as well. It's VP to win yet another one. And even though they managed to find some aggression back in the side of Cowana, it costed them some time to get the diffuser, forced them to swing in right afterwards, and just punished by the 2 guns remaining on the Virtus.Pro side. Not enough control to really go for the execute they wanted to go for there, especially not when you let yourself be punished from the top beepers as easily as they did, because there were so many opportunities Rask had to take someone down. He saw the thermite first, saw Sloth afterwards, saw another player going back before changing back towards Sloth to pick up that kill. So VP really choosing their battles right here, and it's 1-4. Well, so far they're definitely winning them, and they're going back towards open area.
Benja able to find 2 is a good stead. It's a good sign. It's a sign that they're warming up and into the game. He was a player that we talked about having unending confidence for someone so young, for someone up on the mantle, which is always a bit of the worry when you come through with, you know, expectations, whether you're a new sort of face to Tier 1 or not. It's still a worry. It's still tough. But he hit the ground running, and in a weird way, that's created more expectations for him now, because you're looking at him as being a bit of a shining light. We've seen him. You know, he's not entirely carrying the game, sure. No one player is, but he's doing a lot of work in terms of getting into firefights, and him waking up is not just a good thing for Cowana, but potentially necessary.
It is definitely necessary at this point. By the way, look at the setup changes that VP have brought. They made a small opening from the kitchen into the small office to the side. They've also created some line of sight holes from the tellers to the archives, and from the archives towards the small office as well, just to stop another Sloth from running in, basically, because that happened before. That also, well, hurt them quite a bit. Of course, they did manage to eventually stop him before more damage could be done, but at least he managed to keep them occupied for quite a while. That is something they have managed to at least address now. Create these extra openings, make sure there is some extra pressure down. Whereas the Jackal now will be getting track and trace of Milan. Just one more ping left, though.
Yeah, Milan's played himself still in there. The drone's going to give live info, and that allows the spray towards 1. Kajeka gets dropped. Benja has the cover to make sure Milan doesn't go for a bit of close revenge. He's not potentially going to use the C4 until he maybe tries to cover his own escape. However, the hatch to his right is locked yet again. So, the longer he sits there, the more likely this is going to happen. Multiple directions, 1 Milan dropped. Benja finds the swing round, and Cowana finds the opening too. Grizzly suffers, but locks it off. Pasha, through the verticality, potentially got dropped there, as Rask has also suffered. Here, Cowana, they've gone with a much cleaner game. They knew what they wanted to punish. They've read how Virtus.Pro played this on the round before, and they've made sure that they go with a different approach that capitalizes on punishment here. The last player locked in green, but it's just a matter of seeing if they can siphon the diffuser to the site.
I was just going to say, this is such a different take from Cowana. It's so much more effective than the previous takes we've seen. They just isolate the players one by one, get the information in, start pre-firing through the walls. And they managed to find 2-3 kills on the back of that as WTG, now the last remaining member, goes in with the Alda, managed to pick up 1, heads back towards the site, but a drop through the hatch already came through. And it will be Cowana to win that very final round and a half, at least lock it off at a 4-2. In favor of VP rather than a 5-1. So there is a little bit more room for error for them now. And they are heading over to the defense themselves to see and show what they have to go, what they have up their sleeves. Because maybe their defenses will be unstoppable. Or unbreakable, rather.
Unflappable.
Is this a made-up word between our names, or is this actually a word?
It's actually
Flappable.
a word.
What does inflappable mean?
Can't be flapped. It's the same. It's the same.
That's how far I managed to get.
Yep. 4-2. Okay, Cowana. Good work. And you haven't used your tactile mouse. You still have that. And you're playing into your defense. So this could be plan going ahead as it's supposed to. I will say there's still earlier rounds there was a disconnect, but you've sorted those as you've driven your way in. Now it's down to Virtus.Pro to prove that they can try and put some pressure on their attacks here on Bank, because Cowana can be a bit of a force when they're free roaming on their defense, and this is a map that plays really, really well into that. If we've now started to see, obviously Sloth has kept up the pace, and Benja and Cowana especially, they are bringing more of this heat, more of this fire. This is where it could really start to connect, and they could really start to thread some rounds together.
All right, we do see the Kate coming into play here to deny 2 of the hatches. Not all of them have been reinforced, I believe. As you can see right here, 1 and open left for now. Grizzly might still be on that job. Doesn't seem like it. Nope, that... Is there reinforcements left? Yeah, there's 1. I'm not quite sure. Is it going to be Sloth? All right, it's Sloth that does it. The action phase has already started, of course, so someone who's not actively trying to hold some of these angles needs to make sure that they get that hatch. So, no panic yet. Just 2 of them have been electroclawed. That is a little bit of extra utility they need to deal with. Now, normally, if it is on a soft floor, the ace could still open up one of those hatches. Think of kitchen, for example, and clubhouse, because you can get around the electrification. But I'm not sure. I almost think you cannot do it when it's on an indestructible flooring right next to it, because the summer will not deploy, meaning that it won't reach it.
Yeah, it has to be something that can be destroyed. It will not just pop on any wall you throw it on. Talking of popping and throwing, this is where it's probably going to start. The Gon 6 to burn an ADS, another smoke canister. That's all 3DS is gone. That's some more my discs, but this will take out pretty much everything apart from the there it goes. 3 grenades. 3 grenades just came through. There's at least still 1 more, but there's another disc. There's also Ella's shotgun. In the words of Demo Casts, the Titan Killer. And this is maybe where the most amount of Titans are killed.
It is a tough spot, the blue stairs, that's for sure. No one really likes to go there, especially not up against a FO12. It's just hard to deal with. Sometimes you do see the hatches to be open up next to it, put some extra pressure down onto the stairs, but you then also need to get those grenades in play to potentially displace the players. Of course, you do have 2 frag grenade operators in play. You've only used 2 of the 4, and as it is Sloth to almost lose his life up here against WTG, might have to go for a bit of a rotate if they want to put some pressure down onto blue. Will at least be the vault or elevator hatch to be opened up to just get some extra information through.
Well, there's a drone that's going to give the idea that Sloth is just playing close here, but he's decided he doesn't want to leave. He's going to sit around and take the fight. Almost does some damage, but Rask, well, he can't quite lock it off with the gun he's got. Going to go for the reload. He's not going to move, but are they going to see if they can peek against it? No. They sort of waited and baited, and that puts an Arctic in a situation here. The red dot is visible. The drop comes through. There's 1. Go for 2. Can't connect it. Suddenly, everything else has fallen around on green as well. Milon is inside the elevator. They have a bit of a straight line here, as Grizzly's going to see if he can get the drop down, because there's nowhere else for them to really go. There's the fight. There's Milon charging his way through. Cowana
They need to go.
Gets next 10 seconds. It's the pistol out, but they're going to plant around the corner. The swing comes through. The pre-fire and the fight. There it is. It's down on the ground, but he can't get the connection. Milon drives it home, and Virtus.Pro take their first attack.
I was going to say they have to run here right now because there is barely any time left. It was a beautiful play there, actually, from the Finca. I believe that was a double, maybe even a triple.
Didn't quite get the easy lock off. Little moments. That's very easy from my perspective and my position to say this is where things could change, and there's where something has changed. Amaru to Maverick. Amaru, the operator who caused quite a few problems.
Especially, they're doubling down on it, but maybe not. They're not quite certain yet. All right, so they went for the 6-pick, and they're like, if they're top floor, this is a great operator. If the bottom floor, this is not so much. Because there's, of course, no opportunity to directly enter the site. But at least you're going to be able to use it to effectively try and clear out some of these roamers on the top floor. So maybe if Virtus.Pro is going for a bit more of the, well, as I said, aggressive roam, aggressive hold, he might be able to bring that aggression right back to them by just cutting down some of their rotations. And as you look right now, Cowana is trying to put a little bit more utility inside of the tellers. You see some reinforcements up there, for example, just some extra rotation. So there's definitely the idea to play from that first floor and make sure those hatches are being defended. Also a risk, though. If you put too many people down there, VP might get a hold of that, and they just rush you through the tunnel.
That's the problem. That's the sort of problem that they're looking at here, is the application of pace, because both teams can play fast, and it's Bank. It has these openings. It has these huge sort of spaces to push against. Hey, look at this. The pre-drones are set up. One thing to sort of talk about is that although we saw a very tall hold from Virtus.Pro most of the time, and we didn't see it from Cowana last time, here they are. Here they're putting this pressure on quite early. Here they are, sort of driving their way through, and here's Benja trying to slip their way across. But every window is falling. They have Grizzly to offer them some cover as they move their way down and away. There's nobody on the top of this skylight as of yet, but the concern is the pace of the Amaru. That can be applied in a lot of different places. They're just baiting the utility for now.
And they need to find out whether or not that top floor will actually be clear, because of course they had Benja firing over some shots, who's now playing right below these windows with the ERC-7 activated. So that means that if they get these drones in, they will get the effect that someone might indeed be around that position, meaning they need to continue actively droning to make sure it's clear. As Rask now goes in onto the top floor, he goes. There's a bit more pressure, of course, from his teammates from the windows. It's Garjeka looking through Kento, for example, as well. There's still a lot of ground to cover here. A minute 40 left on the clock, and they need to fight 2 floors down.
Love this drone. Love it. It's giving all the intel to the positions. You've got a mute underneath. Doesn't quite connect, though, with the intel, but still, they can feed that as the drone's going to come around the bottom of the corner. It's being pinged as well. They have eyes everywhere. And they're making sure they use them. And that's the big point right now, is they're not just sort of sitting pretty in the bottom. They're not waiting for Virtus.Pro to come towards them. They're instead seeing how much of a stretch they could pull off on the other floors. We are 2 minutes further into the round than by the time Virtus.Pro were able to do any of this before, because last time they didn't really have anything to do before.
Now, keep in mind, there's no FO12 on the server stairs this time. It's just Gorgona inside of the open area. And I believe there's an extra player, but WTG just drops and gets the kill. There's the next one, however. It's Sloth to try and go for the swing here. Gets that kill. At least the refrag is there. 4 and 4. Spots out the feed. Gives away the position as he lets them know that he's still watching. And now it will be up to VP to start and decide which one they will go for next.
In the meantime, Milan suffers on the other side. The drones are going to come through. They do not quite connect, but again, 30 seconds. He's on a hatch. He can take this in a second, and Milan is not far away. The swing's going to come round potentially, but he's concerned about the possibility of someone else coming up from behind. So instead, they all pull back. Benja is going to creep his way down blue. 20 seconds. Virtus.Pro are looking where that they can try and apply next. They've got to do it fast, and that means little swings like Grizzlies there on the green stairs is going to be much more punishing. Towards the vault, towards the elevator, they go with a quick drop hatch, 10 seconds. They don't have any other choice now as Grizzlies repositioned. Cowana have the man advantage, doubled it down as the swing comes around from the opposite side. One more for Sloth. One more for Sloth. Not quite, but he doesn't need it. Cowana, however, did need that round.
Timer ran out there, and of course the manpower as well in the end, and indeed a very well much needed round for Cowana, who after their tactical timeout managed to at least pick up one as a response. Now, however, different sites will be coming up next. Staff room and open area, first floor. No more bottom floor for now, at least. And that means VP, they might be doubling down into the actual usage of the Amaru now. Might see that 6-pick. Doesn't seem like it. However, for now, the Yana from Rask stays a Yana, and the Echo again will be on the board. An operator that, you know, is giving away some valuable information to the side of Cowana, but hasn't necessarily won a round yet on its own, so it isn't problematic yet. That's it.
That's the tag.
Yet.
Now, as we return to open area, we're going to see how it holds up on the other side. If we can get potentially a little bit more of that roaming Cowana, you have to, in this case, in this site, at least have more of a presence on the top floor. And it was something that they pushed well, but there's less work for Virtus.Pro to do on take here. Amaru's gone. She's off the board this time round, instead going with the take and the possibility that worked for them previously. They still have good energy. They're still only 1 round away from confirming OT. It's still not out of the question that they can put in that performance. It's Covana's mantle, it's Covana's metal that is being tested now as they're pushed and pushed.
The Supernova here on Anarchic. It's not shocking we do see very often, but of course with the buff of the Bearing 9, it became a little bit more viable. Beforehand, it was very hard to control, the small machine pistol's recoil. However, now it's a bit better, and that means we do see the Supernova to be brought out a little bit more as a way of restructuring the site, creating some rotations, creating some lines of sight, which then a smoke player, for example, doesn't have to do, or allows Benja, for example, to pick up an MP5K, which I'm not sure if he does. He's currently equipped with the SMG-11, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if he decides to go for it in the end. VP, however, they need to yet again make a round stick here. They didn't really get close in that very final round we just played, but they're now attacking a very different side. Kento is being opened up. It will alleviate a lot of the pressure. Suddenly, Cowana members don't feel as safe anymore to play inside of that hallway because they know someone will be watching it. And they might be even able to open up right below that as well and cut off the second hallway as well. That connects the tellers towards the open archives.
Virtus.Pro. Now, what else can you do here as the drones start to find their way through? It was a catch on an Echo drone that's quickly zipping out of there before it gets dropped by anybody swinging from the front of lobby or any of the windows. It's a valuable piece of intel, and it worked for them pretty much well. Sure, it didn't get the flat connection, but there is a connection. Anarchic gone. Why get the drone when the man is just there?
It's the second time, I believe, we've seen a Echo or something being picked up whilst on their drone, and I can't really fault him for it. It was a barricade, it was a shield right behind him. He probably didn't expect him to be this quick about it, so well played by the side of VP, getting the information and playing off of it instantly to get yourself into that man advantage. Suddenly, those yokai drones are static, just providing information, not really trying to do anything else anymore. They're not really a threat in the very post-plant or pre-post-plant situation.
Cowana is on a bit of an adventure here to see if he can get some revenge for this hole being opened, but the body is no longer there. Back on the windows at the top, up high, it's harder to see and spot as Kajeka plays a little bit of a repel game, but knows he doesn't have to overstress. Oh wait, yes you do, 30 seconds, sure. You got a fantastic pick on the Echo, but you're all still upstairs, you're all still outside. Milon is the closest as he drives his way around on the bit of the connection that Sloth was able to punish a little bit before, but as we saw, without valid support, there's not much that you can really do here. Pasha is above the hatch with WTG waiting to drop into open. They're just spotting out and put the firefight down towards Sloth, who is the catch on the drone. It's Rusk with one with Benja on a bit of a trade here. 10 seconds. And Benja's going upstairs to get some revenge from the other side of the hatch, hoping to get the catch. There's one. The plant is going down elsewhere on the far side, just on the other side of the swing door. Milon with a very important pick there as Pasha is able to get it down. The spray connects. Cowana can't get it, but Benja does! And that is a clutch for Benja.
It was a very close one, but he managed to retake that top floor just in time and picks up some very important kills. First of all, the player inside of the open area, which had the opportunity of locking down an extra kill. And after that, of course, the very final drop with the double kill in the end, right above the diffuser. It allows Cowana to try and fight back. Suddenly, it is no longer 3-5 or 2-5. No, it is 4-5. Suddenly, one round distances themselves between one another. So, as VP, well, they just need a singular one to lock off a potential overtime, and they need two to get the full 3 points. It's Cowana now to try and creep closer just bit by bit, making sure that they are making VP's life very hard for this game.
So the conversation that was on the desk was around Amaru. Why? Because Virtus.Pro was slow before Amaru came into the board, and that was something that really helped strike against UK compatriots Na'Vi. We've seen Virtus.Pro be a little bit slow, technically even with the Amaru before, but it was the first time that we saw Cowana go for the stretch roam. Okay, you can understand a bit of caution here, though. That round there without it, again, even though they got such a fantastic strike onto the Echo quite early, based on the intel that they had to swing, from that point onwards, it was, again, caution. It was slow, and you could see Cowana, they do what Cowana do. They get antsy, they get explory, they get aggressive. And that is something which, if it strikes at the right place, it's terrifying.
I really wonder what would have happened though if Rask, after getting that very first kill onto the Echo, would have just pushed through into the kitchen itself and tried to get more kills like that. Of course, they probably didn't because they lacked the information for it. So, you know, as he was the one who droned himself in for that actual first kill, if someone else would have been the one to drone that one in, he could have picked up that kill and then tried to continue going forward, and suddenly that round could have been completely different. Either way, it is Cowana who won that one. And suddenly it is 4-5. Virtus.Pro still need that singular round to at least lock in OT and lock in a singular point. As Cowana, well, they still have a little bit of a gap to cross, but it is starting to slim as the rounds progress.
Sloth has his rotations, has some beepers, and you can see that's perked the ears of the body that's just hopped in on the open. The spray comes through, with the drone not quite driving themselves further and further in. There's the caution on the hole, but they know it's not being watched as they're able to slip on by, slip past, and find themselves potentially putting a bit of pinch pressure here on the bottom of the stair set as White becomes a bit of a focal. But Rask is going to sit and wait. He has, obviously, the pocket grenades, has the potential to try and do something through some of the softs that he now has a bit of free range access to, but we talked about it before. Sometimes when Cowana have time, they get explory.
Now, let's see if they manage to find a way to get rid of the... Okay, never mind. I was going to say actually get rid of the Echo, but they managed to get Anarchic instead, with that first grenade being tossed in. Benja still playing a bit of a vertical role here as Rask is checking right behind the beepers, knowing full well that if he tries to continue through, he will be picked up, or at least they will be aware of his current position. So he needs to be very careful with trying to go and enter from that way.
It's a bit of a tragedy for Rask. This is not Rask, even Anarchic. This game so far, it's a couple of times he's been dropped by utility, dropped by pace, and dropped in a position where he's just sort of sat waiting and can't quite have to dig into the drive on these defenses that he could potentially have, and has been sometimes the last one standing. Agona is the next to potentially fall as the spray comes over from the upside down rappel on what is pretty bold. You don't really see too many come through the skylight, but here, as they just get the lock off but get dropped in response, Sloth is able to strike a little bit back, but look, there's one above
surge.
The White. There is the adrenaline surge. He's back to his feet. Pasha with the diffuser is going to crawl in with the cover of WTG on Benja's windows. Well, Benja wins a very important fight.
Yeah, he definitely wins an important fight right here. Suddenly a bit of pressure is gone from the window. Sloth removes pressure from the main stairs, and that means it's back to a 3-3 situation. Another adrenaline surge will give Pasha a little bit more of HP after he took a very daring re-peek onto a member that was down. Only 10 seconds left onto the clock, and while Milan loses the gunfight out to Sloth, who's in a very key position right now to stop any plant from happening. The timer starts to run out. He manages to get one, but not the second. Grzecha runs for the player inside of the stock, but he's not going to be able to land the shots, and Cowana managed to win it on the back of it. If he had the opportunity to pick up that diffuser, I'm still not quite sure if he would have won it due to it being the Echo and potentially any yokais being left. And that means we're back up into a 5-5 mark. Gogona stands up. Oh, I was going to say, might indicate towards a tactical timeout from the VP side, but instead just wanted to stretch his leg quick.
It's just one more sort of player to have a connection in the same round. 2 players, 3 players. That's what Covana's sort of missing, and Virtus.Pro is aware of this. Because their takes are generally pretty good, apart from slow.
Yeah. Yeah. Big issue here. And we're back towards that bottom floor. And guess what? That is generally already a very slow attack because you have 2 floors to fight through before you finally reach that bottom one. It's very often a 2F to a first floor to a all the way into the basement take. Whereas if you're on that top floor, you can basically, you know, disregard the whole basement. You can even disregard most parts of the first floor because they're not really that important. So, even more time will be necessary now for the side of VP. They need to speed up. They need to get these entries they managed to get before. And Cowana doing the smart thing here. They've had 2 tries at it. The first one failed. The second one succeeded. And they're deciding to go with the actual setup that managed to find success the first time around. So let's see if it will the second time around as well, because, you know, time, real big thing there. They just dropped in the vault in the end there and managed to, well, at least win one of the gunfights, but that's nowhere near enough.
5-5, Cowana, you've pulled it back, but it's still not over yet. 1 more to secure a point and 2 to secure the game after what looked a little lost. Virtus.Pro, you've had your timeout now, and we're seeing a much sharper pace, more aggression on the windows. They're leaning into the fight here. They have the stretch and they have the players split over, but with a bit of a missed drone there. Kajek is just going to make sure he doesn't get dropped as he goes for the pickup. And is going to drive it to himself. Safety first.
Always that safety first, just to make sure that you are going to be able to get the information out. First spot checked, not the same spot they've hidden in themselves. There you go. I was going to say, like, normally you would check that spot if you got caught off, or if you caught someone off behind that one. It's WTG with the very first kill. It's Benja to drop, and that's quite an important one at that as well.
This time, last time, it was a minute slower. The spray comes through against Grizzly, who's stuck. The sledge doesn't connect, but Milan sure does. And this is it. This is the difference of that pace. This is what we saw from the first round win here. WTG especially driving it through with the support of the others. Virtus.Pro, they're so much quicker than they were before, even with a similar hold. Ras gets one more. They can punish, they can push, they can keep putting this pressure on and turning Cowana into a little bit of a problem. Sloth is sort of caught in the middle. The drone's going to catch him out. He's going to try and slip away for a rotate. Doesn't get very far because Rask swings round, and R-Kick is the only one left. I said before, he hasn't quite been able to have an impact. There won't be a bigger one than if he pulls this back round. The Bearing 9 buffed and showing it as he gets one more caught on the drone. So he's going to slink and slither his way back. But Milan puts Virtus.Pro to map point.
There you have it. They needed to be quicker, and, you know, I said it is good they use that same setup as they managed to do before. However, at the same time, it's also a risk, because that means there has been time for a team like Virtus.Pro to try and make sure that they can go for these counter strategies. And that's definitely what they did here. They used that tactical timeout to make sure that they had the opportunity to go for a counter strategy. They were quick. They managed to isolate these players and managed to shut them down quickly. And as a result, they are still the ones to hit match point first. But this time, just a singular round to try and lock it off. And of course, that could be enough, but if you don't, then we're heading into overtime, and suddenly the win will only be worth 2 points rather than the full 3.
Virtus.Pro, one more swing. Cowana, same goes. You've been on the back foot before, and weirdly, it's when you sort of played a little bit of the best of your defense. Here, you're going to have to see if you can push that again. Slight differences, obviously. Different side, different place, different players. Different potential with that pulse in the hands of Cowana. We've obviously seen different intel game. How many times can I say that word? Apparently too many. As the difference could be that they pushed themselves over. The Echo was a consistency. The Echo turned into a little bit of a, not a reliance or a dependence, but it wasn't offering the same assistance it did when it was so powerful. It's good that they've learned that and seen that, and hopefully more eyes into what is going on will stop deaths like we saw from an R-Kick last time we were here.
Yeah, bit of a change in position, but you never know if that is going to be resulting in the same thing, because maybe VP, well, they've just got a taste of speed and what it can do for them. And they also know that they need to bring that down yet once more. So WTG starting to open up towards the CEO. It's Benja to fall back, and currently no one around. If they manage to get that drone in quick enough, they might be able to capitalize on this fact and get someone already inserted all the way on that top floor, which could be big if you want to make sure you cut off these roamers up on that top floor quickly.
That's it, steady droning, but look at the bodies that are moving behind it. Look at the repositioning that Virtus.Pro is doing. They're making sure that they have an awareness and a pressure that they can apply. Milan is going to slow creep his way round onto Stoke, but Benja is currently the only body that is a body on the top floor. They're seeing if they can make it as dead and decrepit as we all look today, but has a little bit more time to play with, has a little bit more space, and you can see now he's dropped off, the drones came through, slips away, isn't going to take the fight by himself.
No, it doesn't have to either as well, because Cowana is playing on that pulse, has the opportunity to give away so much information to the rest of the team. If you're looking at the amount of C4s available, well, there's still 2, but Benja is going to be the first one to be tossed in. Unfortunately, doesn't catch anything. As that hatch is going to be popping soon, it's Cowana to not choose to go for a Nitro instead, because he knows there is quite a bit of danger connected to it if the hatch is opening up.
Now as the pressure starts to come through, they're looking for the swing and the danger that they can apply here. Benja, bottom of the stairs and making sure that they're a little bit aware. Grizzly, ready to drop as well in case they need a bit of support underneath. Sloth is still an adventure, and that's the thing about this Virtus.Pro swing so far is, okay, they haven't thrown themselves into the mantle and suffered because of it, but it's caution, and it's an application where, you know, they're still seeing if they can strike at the right time. Sloth suffers first. You can see Milon and Kajeka are sort of setting themselves up for a bit of a mantle of pressure with WCG over the top, slips their way round, and is going to hold off on the angle as more explosion and Gon 6 start to pop from the bottom square.
They're very well aware of his position right now. Smoke canisters are being tossed in, but a grenade will be rolling right across the corner as well, dealing just a little bit of damage to Anarchic, who's forced to use the second Grizzly down. In the meantime, 30 seconds left, and VP thinking of a hatch drop, but it's Benja to go up to the top floor together with Sloth. The diffuser gets dropped, and it's stuck on the top floor. They can just hold on to that now with their dear lives for these next 20 seconds, and it's Cowana that will push us towards the overtime situation. Benja picks up yet another kill. Rask stuck near the opening of the dining table. Kajeka tries to take the gunfight, not quite able to hit it yet. And as Benja picks up that triple, it is Rask in the sight, but without the package that he needs to put the timer in his favor. And it's Sloth to pick up the very, very final kill of that round. And OT we go.
OT we go, round and round, and the circus that's led by Milos here in EUL keeps on going. We find ourselves now still seeing a defender-sided bank. We find ourselves seeing two teams that are just continually sort of surprising each other. It's a bit of a back and forth in terms of pace and who's actually able to put people down so far, which is good because at the start, well, it wasn't. It was a bit of the Virtus.Pro show in terms of the kill feed, and now you're sort of looking at Virtus.Pro, and I guess our knowledge is that we know that they can step it up. Their knowledge is that it's been a defender-sided map so far. If they can take this first take, if they can lock off Staff and Open, which they've been close to twice. One of them was a plant, and one of them there, the diffuser just got dropped by a perfectly timed rotation, which is more of the grace of the Siege gods and goddesses than it is anything else. Can they just find that connection?
That's the thing though, right? If the diffuser wasn't dropped, they would have just dropped the hatch, but then two players would be right above you with some verticals to play with as well. So how effective would it have been? You really needed a bit of a flank watch there to stop them from coming up those main stairs, but of course with the amount of time left, you wanted to get as many people onto the side as you possibly could. However, twice now, that has been basically what led to your downfall. It's just really Benja that came up twice from the back. Of course, Sloth this time joining and picking up some very important kills as well. That is something you need to make sure doesn't happen if you want to go for a very similar take like that. Sloth this time playing inside of the elevator. Knows fully well that a grenade is most likely having his position written on it. But SVP is deciding again to go for a very similar take. It's Rask to just enter Janitor and potentially think about going for a bit of a cheeky kill onto one of the kitchen players.
Yeah, and as they find their way through here, it's the same opening they did before, but remember it was a much slower take last time. The Pulse and the player of Cowana is going to see if they can catch anybody out here. The grenade drops and rolls down. Opens a bit of an angle, but not much beyond that for now, at least. You can see the pre-placed drones are over that core of the side where Sloth was causing problems before. He's sort of in a bit of a battle here with Kajeka. Whoever gets the catch on whoever first, he tries to use the audio from this camera to get an idea of just where the player is. He's likely to swing on this as he goes for it. The drone is giving the idea that he's close as well, and he opts not to, doesn't want to risk it, at least from the position there until he has an idea on the drone. Rask in the meantime risks the swing, takes Cowana and pulls himself a little bit further back.
Second time now manages to catch someone off from that side, and Sloth now knows he needs to go a bit more aggressive. There is someone repelled up here and he wants to find him. It's a gunfight he doesn't necessarily have to take right now, but at least he's trying to put some pressure down before he starts to rotate around. He's going up to that main stairs area again, still playing around the open area, having the opportunity to rotate back up if he feels it's necessary. And Benja, of course, is just a singular rotation away, so a lot of opportunity here for Cowana to again pull off what they have managed to do twice before on the site, with Kajeka trying to locate himself into a better position.
I was going to say, I was curious if Kajeka was actually going to head up to the top and watch the rotation from the back, because if he's sort of playing this loose play, well, it's Benja that suffers next. Droned in by Rask, Milon cuts through, driven by the Finker, and again, they know the importance of this and putting the mantle of the pressure on their favor. Sloth, caught out by Pasha. Grizzly has to rotate their way Playday background up top and is expecting the fight on beepers, but Virtus.Pro, for the first time in a while on their attacks, have time, and they're using it. They're droning out, they're making sure they cut off the rotations, and now it's just 2 Cowana players left. Hop, skip, and a jump closer towards the hatch and the chance on the drop round. They are waiting to see if they can apply some pressure here as it comes through. The spray doesn't connect. Pasha gets one more, goes for the plant. Grizzlies off site and a flawless once again pushes Virtus.Pro to map point.
They have it, a running back towards the same side, and VP managed to punish it this time around. A little bit quicker, able to find these players so much more effectively and just shut down the rotations before they can even happen or think about them. And VP yet again find themselves at a match point. This is for just 2 points. 1 point over Cowana, of course, because they will be awarded a singular point if they lose it now, whereas VP get 2. You do not really get away that much in terms of points, but at least it is not going to be the lesser end of it, so you still build a bit of an advantage. Executive and CEO, that's the site VP decides to go with. The Bandit gets swapped out for Arcade. Gore's not really having to actively trick there, just get those 2 Electro Claws, maybe even from below, and play from that position is always an opportunity that could be, well, explored here by Virtus.Pro.
Well, Virtus.Pro, you're once again in a position to lock it out, and arguably it's better than the last time, because you're on your defense, because you're on that side that is otherwise sighted as better for this game so far. The connection has been cleaner, the play has been a bit more together, and the problems that you suffered so long ago was Covana's pace. They slipped through, they found their way into tricky positions. And I'm curious to see if the energy they might have found on their defense is going to be something that gives them a little bit more on their attack. If they have something that they didn't quite have before, if they are looking towards those pockets, those space, but this time it's backed by confidence.
Yeah, remember the start of Cowana onto their attack wasn't quite good as well, you have to say. There were still some players that were warming up at that very same time, so that is an issue that should have been resolved now. Either way, some very good Yokai drones in position, giving away so much information to every single player out there on the side of Virtus.Pro. As they're getting ready, 2 minutes 30 left on that action phase. Cowana know they need to win this one if they want to make sure that they are heading away with an opportunity to win this game. If they do not manage to get these entries here yet once more, as the flashbangs are being tossed into waste, the ADSs and the magnetic grenade will follow, but not deal enough damage to get rid of WTG. Actually, I believe got shot from the windows.
Shot from the windows, dropped down, they'll be aware of this, but can anybody get in a position to get the pickup? It's dangerous, most notably because there's somebody still on the windows. Grizzly has the watch in the eye, and you probably won't be able to slip your way through to get him back up without that fight happening, but Pasha does find the angle. Finds the hole and finds a grenade, but it doesn't quite connect. WTG back on the board. Bench has got one more grenade. They're watching desperately to try and find the catch here on those players, those bodies. WTG, he's out of time.
Oh.
It was valiant, though. You could see what Pasha was trying to do, but with the catch and with where he needed to be to not get dropped, it puts him in a tricky situation, and then puts Pasha in a trickier situation, because now he's caught in a similar situation. The difference is Cowana doesn't have nearly as much utility.
And I've managed to at least drone him out, though, so they know he is taking that spot as one of the players lost their position there. The push-up comes now. Sloth hoping to go up the spiral stairs. Milon tries to find a response. Gershaka finds one through the wall, still has a shield to play with, but he's being pressured from the main stairs. He managed to get the kill there as well. It's a 3-on-2 situation. VP, they have it all to lose right now.
Kajaka as the backline really drove that home, and now it's Benja and Anarchic, 2 players that have had slightly different stories with this game so far. Benja, he's crept himself into a position, and now that's the only position Cowana have left. A 3 versus 1, no diffuser, 50 seconds, a hot ping. And that is a very dangerous thing. Virtus.Pro knows that the red ping, when you hold F to scan, that is really going to cause a problem. Rask locks it off. Virtus.Pro take 2 points out of it. It maybe should have been 3, but still, it's better than nothing.
It is better than nothing. It is better than the one they would have otherwise had. And those 2 points will definitely help them in the overall standings. Of course, relegation are no longer on the board here anymore. It is just for position, potential SI points, and maybe even if all the stars align, not 100% sure of it, but even maybe the SI.